So there's a lot of us, a vast majority of us here, statistically, are we are Mac users, and so a lot of us are pay a lot of attention to that, and we thought it'd be interesting to talk to some folks that really are in the trenches every single day to support people that are selling their Macs, fixing their Macs, and really what does it take to actually get that done. And today we have Garret Cleversley. He's the owner of Mac Solutions Plus and executive director of the ASMC. And the ASMC is the Apple Solutions Marketing Corporation. Terry McAdams, who's the CEO of Mac Tech Solutions and a member also of ASMC. And Jim Dufek, who is the owner of Gator Tech and president of ASMC. Welcome, guys. Good to have you here.
Well, thank you. I am excited to be able to present and showcase a little bit about what we do at ASMC and also as independent dealers and resellers and service providers and consultants actually as well. So if I can, tell me when I'm ready to go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just going to go quickly through this.
Yep, go ahead. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, ASMC, Apple Solutions Marketing Corporation, you already introduced the guys, so we'll skip on past that. So who is ASMC? Well, ASMC, Apple Solutions Marketing Corporation, but we just say ASMC, it's a lot quicker. We're the largest trade organization out there for the Apple channel, and as it says on the slide there. But basically, we're here. ASMC is here to help us as independent dealers of Apple products to get the word out and to gain customers, and of course, they give us a lot of tools. We get marketing training, we get social media training, we get access to vendors, and they collectively were able to go to vendors and to Apple and to kind of speak with one voice, and so that really helps us in our efforts, and of course saves a lot of time on our part. But basically, we're made up of a whole bunch of resellers, and now resellers are we've got different titles. There's regular resellers like us. We're an Apple Authorized Reseller only. And then Jim and Garret are both in their business a premier partner. So they've met additional requirements to be a premier partner. Value-added resellers are usually business-related. They have a specialty in the business side, networking, mobile device management, that kind of stuff. And then, of course, many of us as resellers are also Apple Authorized Service Providers. And that's basically where we turn the screwdrivers and fix the products and all that. iPhones, Macs, and any other Apple product we support in and out of warranty. And then there's another group of Apple professionals called the Apple Consultants Network, and that's an organization ran by Apple, and you have meet requirements and that kind of stuff. So that's really the membership is made up of those, and the members cannot be a primarily online retailer, and they can't be part of a national chain. So we're all of us are independent. Smaller dealers, if you will. They actually, way back when it was an Apple dealer is what they used to call us. But so a little bit more continuing on about who we are. As I said, we're locally owned businesses, mom and pops, many of us, just one retail store. Some of them have several retail stores. We've got, and I'll show you here in a map here in a second. But basically, we get the same training that Apple does that provides their employees. We do device repair, as I said, B2B support. We have retail stores, as I mentioned there, too, where we'll have consumer traffic come in, Apple Consultants Network members, as I said as well. And many of our members have been doing Apple-related professional services for over 40 years, and that to me is a big deal. You won't find that in any Apple store, I don't think. Backbone of Apple service during COVID. Apple shut down every single Apple store during COVID and relied on the independent dealer channel in order to the Apple Authorized Service Providers in order to do that. So that we think we've stepped up and really made a difference there. And we have long-time and loyal customers. We have to maintain the same requirements. In this case, we have to maintain a 95% customer satisfaction rate in order to be blessed by Apple as far as for repairs and things. So to us, that's a big deal. service the entire line. But we also sell not just Apple stuff, we sell third-party solutions as well. So just keep that in mind. We have products and services, and it said we repairs, iPhone, Mac, everything else. Apple Business Manager and mobile device management. Many of us will be able to help businesses with that kind of thing. We do networking, hardware design, VoIP, managed IT, et cetera. You name it, most of us will probably be able to handle all that kind of thing with the focus in on the Apple products. And here's a quick map of showing all the different locations of some of the members. And so if you want to see more and find one, then there's a website right there, the asmcbenefits.org, dealer-locator. And so on that, the Apple customer journey can look like this. If you're a customer and you're wanting to buy an Apple product, you certainly can, as an individual consumer, you can go to an Apple store, but they don't come out to your house and set it up and deliver it to you. Big box stores, they're limited in their services as well. Although depending on whether it's Walmart or get an iPad or go to Best Buy, they do offer the Geek Squad and that kind of stuff. But we're so much more professional, trained. Experience is probably your biggest thing that we're going to have over any of the big box stores. And then if you go, as I said here, point out here is you can go to an ASMC member or any other Apple Authorized Reseller, Premier Partner, Value-Added Reseller, and you're going to get that full service from, soup to nuts and everything in between. We'll be able to handle it. But go ahead.
I'm going to kind of give you a break here for a second. So okay. I've got a couple questions for you guys.
Sure.
So there's a big push right now, of course, of the right to repair.
Yes.
Now, and I will admit to our viewers, I'm not a big fan of right to repair. Like, I think it's crazy. Okay. But can you outline from your perspective what are the either advantages or challenges to people trying to repair their own, specifically their own phones? But right. We can talk about all the different computers there. But I think that most people are focused on the phone. Like, how do you replace the phone there?
Right. Well, basically, I threw a question in on the question list on this very topic about third-party repair. So basically, if we have to use in our channel, we have to use Apple products. We have to do exactly what the Apple stores do. We have to use Apple's provided parts and have to be certified people in order to do that. There are some, as far as Apple making it and opening it up to the independent repair channel, there's no warranty to go with it, although you can get the parts. But the biggest thing we run into is we have these third-party places in town that, batteries, that to me is a safety issue. The quality of the parts is inferior. And when they break the phone, then they send it to us in order for the customer to get taken care of. So,
and can you explain signing components? So there's this whole of the the matching of the components there that people are trying to unwrap right now is saying, oh, Apple shouldn't be able to do that.
Right. Well, and I mean, that's, of course, I'll leave that out for the public to decide whether that's good or not. But basically, it's a security thing to me. And basically, the parts are married, if you will, and they have to have the right software in order for those to talk. So that let's say that there's a screen that's made and there's additional communications on the board of the iPhone or even the Mac. Apple's just trying to build in a certain amount of security so that it's instead of just software viruses and things, you could have hardware viruses built into the hardware. And so Apple's just putting in security features in order to make sure that works and safely.
And as an Apple owner of an Apple products, I guess for me, my question is does it make my phone more valuable if we take away signing? Does it make my phone more valuable to steal? Because now, if the products aren't, so my sensitivity to it is that number one is I think that a non-authorized fix of your phone is absolutely insane. Mostly because I just don't think it will never be the same. Like if you try to do it yourself or you get somebody else to do it, it's probably never going to be the same. The second thing though is that I don't want any value to be connected to my phone. Right now, if you steal my phone and I hit brick it, it's going to brick it.
Right.
Like you're not going to have it. But with unsigned components, it means that does that mean that people could take it apart and use those parts, in fixing a non-authorized dealer? Would that be?
I don't really think. I think the way things are built right now, it's very difficult to do that at all.
Now,
it's just
right now.
Right, but the brain, the main board, there's so many components on it. As we know, the A series chips is just basically got memory, CPU, security, and everything all built into one physical chip, and then everything else just to support it on the main board. So I don't think, unless they're modifying that board, I just don't think we're losing no matter who repairs it, quite honestly. That's
currently,
my belief.
But I think that the push is to make sure that these components are more interchangeable. And the argument is so that they can use more used phones. But my thing is I don't want them to use more used phones, because if they use used phones, they're using possibly my stolen phone. So that's right. Like as the Apple user, I think I'm just like, I don't want to play.
Right. And I understand that. And I agree with you. But at the same time, the customer's phone, they should be able to some extent, should be able to do whatever they want with it. I'm kind of, we've got what's the guy out of New York who's moved to Austin? I can't remember his name right now, but he's big into the independent repair push. But I don't think that's an issue. I just think we just have to make that individual choice as to whether to go to an authorized place and or Apple to have our devices repaired. I think if you get it recycled, if you decide to turn it in and get rid of it and recycle it through Apple, then you know that it's definitely going to get properly disassembled and everything. But I think the security features built in is not an issue. I trust Apple that they've, when they go through and you erase it, then they're erasing it. So
yeah. And what is the most common repair that you guys have to do?
iPhone screens. Got to be the single biggest one, and batteries, at least for us. And Jim and Garrett, please chime in. Mm-hmm. And I do have a couple more slides, but I can call it good. We're right into the question and answer.
Let's jump into the questions. Yeah,
that's great. So I'm going to stop sharing then. Okay, that sounds great.
So what are the so screens and batteries. So the screens people drop.
Exactly. They drop them and they get them out. The next thing I think might be often is getting them wet. Even though
now,
Apple
I have
says
proven that the 14 will handle 6 feet because I fell into my pool while I was cleaning it. I was on the phone and next thing I know I was underwater. So anyway, it shook it off. It was fine. So so the newer ones are better at that. But water damage has been a problem in the past. And if you crack the screen and then have then you have more water damage, right? So that's the other.
Yes. Correct.
The other challenge. Is there still, I thought that there used to be is there still something that indicates whether it has interacted with water?
There were liquid trip sensors that you could see.
Right.
And, there's still some in there, but they're not easily accessible anymore.
Right. So you have broken screens, batteries going dead. How often do people, or how many years should people expect their battery to work well?
Probably 3 years, I'd say. And if there's a light user, grandma, she may get 4 years out of it. And it's built into the settings that go to the battery settings. You're going to look in there and you're going to see the health of the battery. And Apple considers a battery consumed at 80%. And so if like my last iPhone, my iPhone 12, I was hanging out until the 15 Pro came out. And when it came out, I was still at 82%. I thought I extended my Apple Care just so that in case my battery, but guess what? I didn't last. So I got 3 years out of it myself. So.
And what generally affects battery life the most? Like, so how, as far as the health of your battery, what can you do if you want to treat your battery better? Does high-powered charging do more damage? Does it leaving it on overnight do more damage? There's all these things that people talk about. Yeah. Is there, what affects it?
Oh, well, basically don't do anything, and Apple handles it in the software. Basically, the algorithm in it is going to charge it to about 80%, and that's the default, and it optimizes the battery for you. And so if you just let it do it, you're fine. Now, if you want to do anything else to help, don't expose it to heat. because heat is just electronics and batteries in particular are enemy.
So leaving your phone out in the sun could overall affect the long-term life of the battery. Not just that it won't work well then; it won't work well potentially ever. I mean, you're taking it's kind of like being around loud music for our ears. It kind of damages. Is that the case?
Yes, batteries are very sensitive to heat. That's why the Apple charges it to 80% and then backs off, because that last 20% takes more energy and it actually makes it hotter. And so, repeatedly, day after day after day, then that will affect the longevity of your battery. So just ideally, keep heat away from, if you can. And I've even been standing outside taking photos, like during I forget what it was. I was standing out and my phone was exposed just to heat and it got overheated a little bit. And of course, it'll warn you before it's dangerous, but just keep that in mind. Don't expose it to heat. Keep that. That's the first thing. And then just let it go. And by the way, one thing is not exactly addressing what you're talking about, but a lot of customers like to swipe off their apps out of memory just to keep their app screen all clean. That actually it's not damaging, but it actually is not helpful. It does not make your phone more reliable. It actually uses a little bit more energy in order to restart those apps every time you do that. So if you're always swiping them out, then there's no need in doing that. And it does use a little more energy. So
Now, Garret, what are the things that you're dealing with on a regular basis? That is always, that you would love to tell people, like, hey, if you just did this, it would be better. Can't hear you. Still can't hear you. I think you might have mute there on the Zoom mute there.
I'm not on Zoom mute.
Oh, okay. There you go.
There we go.
All right, there we go. It just popped up, so someone's watching in the background. The last tip, even to continue on the battery side, is buy major manufacturer cables and chargers that respect the software and the hardware that's in the phone. Don't buy the 7-Eleven $3 cable that aren't certified. It won't respect the software and the hardware. And even if you buy the cheap one off Amazon or wherever, you can feel that thing getting super hot. Well, It's not interpreting the feedback. So that's the largest thing. I mean, Terry touched on putting the background apps, keep your phone up to date. There are occasionally glitches where, one release will start eating the heck out of your battery, and then a few days later, Apple releases a fix for it. So,
right, no, absolutely. And Jim, let us know what are the things that you wish that you could tell Apple users, whether it's their phone or whether it's the computers. The thing, because you guys see all of this all the time.
Sure.
What is the thing you just go, I just wish someone would stop doing that, or I wish they would understand that.
For us, we're in a college town, and so. There's obviously some different things that we see. One of the things we've been seeing a lot of is actually fake AirPods. And so it's interesting because people think there's just a great price point. And, I got these AirPods for $50. And then they stop working 3 months later. They bring them in. They look completely real. But then as soon as you look at the serial number, it's the same serial number that's been used 1,000 times. Yeah. And so it's something where, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And so that definitely stands true for AirPods.
And do you go ahead, Terry.
What I was going to say is that don't forget your Apple ID and password, please. That is probably the single biggest thing we spend time on beyond the actual repair. It's just getting it checked in. You have to remove Find My Device, and in order for us to do a service on it, and so it quite often. But we'll take them through the process. Now they may have to pay because if it's going to take extra time, but we get them taken care of.
Now, I have an old iPad that was part of my last company, and it's disabled now. Is there can I bring it in? Is there anything I can do to bring it back to life?
You possibly can. If you don't know the Apple ID and password that was on it, then you're going to have to show proof of purchase. Then we get Apple to unlock it.
Oh, okay.
So,
there you go.
Yeah.
It's been sitting around. All I want to do is make it a clock. It's old. I'm just kind of like, this would be a good little clock up here. But I was like, I got to figure out how to actually get it. And definitely, I think everything I bought has been through Apple. So I have to, or through an authorized dealer. So it's not like bought something used.
Right. As long as you have the receipt, as long as you have the invoice, if you can produce that, then you can go to AL-unlock or AL-support. I forget. There's a website. We can find it if you want. But basically, you can submit it and get it unlocked yourself.
And does like when you buy something from Apple, it kind of automatically ends up in your, as an Apple user in your Apple. When you buy from an authorized reseller, does the same thing happen? Does it get added to that system, or do you have to do it manually?
Okay, if you're looking at mobile device management with Apple Business Manager and things, we do have to do a couple of steps. No, I'm just talking
about as a user. I think every computer or device
shows up in your Apple ID.
Store. Yeah, but if I buy it from an Apple authorized reseller, the same thing happens, right?
Well, it doesn't show up in your purchase history, though. That's the thing. That with your Apple ID is tied directly with Apple. It's going to show your whole purchase history. What it does do, though, of course, just like any other Apple device, no matter where you buy it, you sign in on your Apple ID. It's going to be part of your Apple ID and your iCloud. Actually, I guess it's Apple. They've just renamed it, I heard, just today. But anyway, your Apple account or something. So, but no, it's not in your purchase history. That is the difference.
Now, for all of you, you're called, oftentimes value-added resellers. So a lot of the authorized resellers are considered, and so VARs. Yes. And I used to work at a VAR.
Okay.
So, what do you, when you try to figure out what you're going to add to what value you're going to add over the regular experience, what are the kind of things that you guys focus on? I'll start with you, Terry. And then we'll go.
Okay. We're just that hand holding. But of course, a lot of us, like I said earlier, that we have a retail store. So we also take care of our business customers. Now, technically, we're not a value-added reseller, but we obviously have to add value of some sort. But I think that just the fact that we're here, we're local, we know we know our customers. I mean, we don't have a turnover here like you do in much larger the mass retail.
Well, I think that's the thing is that if you're working with Apple or working with a customer, they don't want to go to the Apple store and talk to it. I mean, exactly. An average person wants to go to the Apple store and have a genius, answer their questions or whatever. But if you're a company, you're trying to figure out, how do I solve this specific problem? Like I'm not, I need. When I was buying computers, we were buying them, 10 at a time. So, and I'm buying this is what I'm looking for. And what am I, and have someone again that you can call, like a person that you can call to do that. Jim, how do you focus on where you kind of distinguish yourself from the average Apple experience?
Sure. So, we really try to have a completely closed system for everything. To make sure that we make, that our customers are, from when they first walk in the store to when they have the product and they have to come back for repairs, we want to create the whole life cycle and make sure that we can cover that for all of it. So, for us, it's finding the exact right product, making sure that it's set up properly, and making sure if they need service, we're there. And then when it gets to time to retire the product, to help them with the buyback of it, to help them find the new one, just a complete cycle for them.
Yeah. And go ahead, Garret.
Yeah, for us, most of my Mac businesses, we are the IT department. We're far cheaper than hiring an in-house IT guy. Most of my larger clients are mobile device management. So they buy a computer from me. It's already in the database. They turn it on. All the programs they need, everything, all the settings, it's automatically pushed out as soon as they turn the computer on and log in. So that's a huge time saver, not only for me deploying software, but obviously then they don't need an internal IT department.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really interesting point of, I don't think I've used it that way, but I could see, a lot of times if you're a smaller company, less than, probably less than 100 computers, you may not have an IT, you may not have a full IT department, or that IT department's focused on something else. And so having somebody else an extra that really knows it, it's a really interesting puzzle.
Now, just want to add, I just wanted to add to that real quick that, we have doctors' offices, dentist's office, lawyers. We have just, the most of our customers are under 10 as far as business customers. We do have one staffing agency where we manage, 50 computers and about the same on iPads, and they're spread all over Texas. So we do most of that remotely. And so we do use Apple Business Manager. We use Adigy as our tool set, and Malwarebytes, and all the other tools that you'd need for a good IT department. So
right, absolutely. Yeah, Alex, you had a question.
Yeah, so I've heard mixed things about this, and my question is about electronics recycling. Can you properly and fully recycle AirPods? Because I've never had a straight answer on this. Do they get dismantled? Can you reclaim the batteries from those?
Garrett?
I can tell you what our recycling center does, because we have a recycling center we specifically use that they're an advanced recycling center. Basically, they have machines that crush everything down and then separate it. It all gets separated out into the boards and the batteries and the plastics. It's really pretty cool, and it's pretty much near 100%, reuse. And obviously the batteries can't, but it all gets separated. It's a pretty wild process. It's pretty cool to see.
What are you the most excited about from WWC?
AI, closed AI.
Yeah, right. I am looking forward to some of the handwriting things. I've been really trying to figure out where my iPad fits. I want handwriting, but hopefully it'll be better.
I was like, I don't know why Apple is delaying the calculator until we saw the calculator. And then I was like, that was a lot of work. Jim, was there anything that caught your eye at WWC as far as things that from your perspective?
Definitely AI. I think just the integration with ChatGPT, and it looks like Gemini is probably on the horizon. I think those are some great integrations that'll really make the products. I don't think there's anything out there like it. You're not seeing that on Android yet, and so I think that really kind of is giving Apple a leg up right now.
Yeah. Keeping your stuff.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I think that the reason Apple's stock probably jumped a fair bit is people realize that this is probably going to be the biggest upgrade cycle in the history of Apple in September and October, because it's just you basically, if you have a phone that's older than the 15 Pro, I think you're going to need a new, and probably the guess is that all the phones by then that are released will be able to handle the AI, will be able to do the Genmojis. I mean, I can already see my kids have pretty good phones. They're not state of the art, but they're like 12 Pros, because they were old ones that I was using for some testing and everything else. It's not bad for a 14 or 16-year-old to have a 12 Pro. But I'm looking down the barrel of them wanting to have something new that will do the Genmojis. That's I think for the high school kids. And so I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens next.
Yeah.
We've got a bunch of questions stacking up. Let's go ahead and jump into them. Alex?
Yeah, the first one's from Douglas Carmichael. With the switch to Apple Silicon, has that made Mac repair much harder, even with self-service repair parts availability?
Go ahead, Garret.
Actually, I think the M1 makes it far easier. You're an old-time repair technician, the way the wires and everything rolled through some of those old machines. I've been a repair tech for 25 years. M1, it's good because it's all on one board, but the bad thing is if you have something go bad, any one thing, it's all one board.
Right,
so
exactly.
Pretty easy. I think the repairability is actually easy, but easier.
Is it more? It's more repairable or less repairable?
I believe it's way more repairable.
Oh, interesting. Go Terry.
Well, I think that he was referring to the self-service repair, and I think it is a little easier for you to do it yourself. But by the time they send you all this equipment and the time you take, your time's worth something. Why do that? Why not just take it to an Apple Authorized Service Provider or an Apple Store or whatever and just get it repaired, But it just boggles the mind. But it is less repairable in that what he pointed out is the individual components on the board. Everything's all in the smaller space, and it's modular. And, so it is easier for us, for sure, to troubleshoot and get it done.
Yeah, I think that my problem really is that, I used to work on mainframe computers. I built a lot of things. I've taken things apart and I've taken my Macs apart and fixed them. I mean, my very first upgrade to an Apple product was my Apple IIe. Which I rewired. I opened it up and I rewired it to directly connect its audio output directly to my stereo system. So that was my poor father, saw me, he spent what I guess is in today's dollars, $6,000 on a computer that I said I needed. And like 2 days later, my 12-year-old's head is in the computer with a soldering iron and doing a couple, add-ons and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And so, but what I would say is that the other side of that is that I won't touch it anymore. Like, because it's not just that I can get it to work, but as an Apple, I guess maybe as an Apple user, the fit and finish is never quite the same again. Like, I can feel that one little key that isn't quite as tight as the other ones are, or if I look at it, there's a little edge to it that I know that if I just taken it somewhere with someone who knew what they were doing, like who does this all the time. I'm technically capable of doing it, but I didn't do 300 of them last year. And so it's just, there is a practice of how everything should feel. Like you pull at something and you go, do I pull hard? Do you need to pop it out? Or if I pull hard, am I going to tear something? And that's the part that you don't always know unless you watched a lot of YouTube videos. And then until you've done it a couple of times, you just don't know.
Yeah, because you learn on the job, and we've already made those mistakes. So, it's but it's also plumbing. I don't touch plumbing anymore. I totally respect it. I can physically do it, but when I go around and was replacing these valves and they started leaking, even though I don't. So I leave that to the professionals. So,
yeah, 100%. Next question.
Robert Choji in Los Angeles, California writes in, how do I find an Apple repair location for products that are older and out of warranty?
Go ahead, Terry.
Well, if you go, I believe it's still locate.apple.com, but basically you can search for any Apple Authorized Service Provider. Now, whether they deal with the older products or not, that's a whole nother thing. Now, most of us, at least in our collaborations and then talking to our fellow ASMC members, most of us do take on the older machines. Now, as long as Apple has designated it outside of the 5 or 7 years, which means it's vintage or obsolete, then we can open that up to getting parts from different places. But as long as it's within, now there's that 5 to 7 years, there's a little bit of gray area if the parts are available or not, that kind of stuff from Apple. But older devices outside of that period, an Apple store won't touch it, and they refer oftentimes to authorized service providers.
Yeah, go ahead, Garret.
Yeah, it's pretty much what Terry said. I know for us, we go back roughly about 12 years. Once you're outside of that 5 to 7, pretty much most of us, if we're Apple Authorized Service Providers, we're going back 12 years. As you know, much more than that, you can't even get close to a modern operating system.
Do you still get people coming in hanging onto their cheese graters?
Oh my God! I'm hoping to get another one in. I need to set up another Pro Tools rig. So
I got a cheese grater too. It's just a museum piece. Like I like to, there's a couple Macs back here and everything else.
I call this coffee table legs.
I have my mine is mostly my wall of depreciation. Of all these old Macs and everything else that are sitting here. But I have a Mac. One of them trying to figure out where to prominently place is my cheese grater that I don't think it'll turn on. But I still have the monitor for it too. Next question.
Next question is from Zach Stallsmith in Chautauqua, New York. I've taken my Apple products to Best Buy a few times as they are a certified Apple repair place, and I've always walked away satisfied with their work. Is this a place that will continue to be available for Apple product repairs?
I'll go, Garret.
Yeah, definitely. They're fully Apple authorized. Our local Best Buys do send some things to us, but if you're Apple authorized, you've gone through rigorous training. You have 95% customer satisfaction. So if you're happy with that experience, then, keep going.
Terry?
The only thing about Best Buy is our local Best Buy is not authorized for Macs. They have to send them off to a central repair facility, and they'll tell you 2 weeks. And I don't know if you could live without your Mac for 2 weeks there, Alex.
No, I have enough of them that I can usually spread it out.
Right.
But if my main computer went down, I would need it to be up pretty quickly. Yeah.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. So, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that most Best Buys are not Apple or Mac certified. Now, they are certified for the iPhone in most cases, but they also require appointments and that kind of stuff. So, but as far as will they continue? We get referrals all the time because our particular Best Buy does not have enough people that are certified because they have such a turnover. So,
go Jim.
Yeah, same as Terry. We see we get a lot of referrals from Best Buy, and ours as well does not do Mac. So we're happy to take those on, and we can usually turn them around within a couple of days versus 2 weeks of mail-in.
Well, I think that's the real churn is really a challenge for any big box store. Is just that that you're not going to see the same people all the time, and so they're going to be there for a couple of years. They got certified, they're doing their thing, but then they're going to be gone. You're not going to someone who's seen this for the last decade or 2 decades, going through. Next question.
Next question is from Paul Wallace in Austin, Texas. I have a Mac Mini M1 with a dead Ethernet port. I use a dongle. What typically causes Ethernet port failure on M1 Mini Macs, and how can I troubleshoot it?
Go ahead, Garret.
Well, that's probably the rarest component to go on any machine. Troubleshooting, if it's not showing up in your system preferences at all, then my best guess would be a lightning strike across, your network. And I see you're using a dongle. If you're out of warranty, quite honestly, a dongle is going to be cheaper than a repair.
Right. That's good. That's good. You go ahead, Terry.
Well, I just mirror exactly what he said. Just the dongle, yeah. If it's out of warranty, now if you have Apple Care and it's still in warranty or whatever, then there still are some M1s that would be under Apple Care. Should be. So just double check you don't have Apple Care.
Next question.
Robert Shoji in Los Angeles asks, what options are available for purchasing older refurbished repair parts that are no longer available from Apple?
Good, Jim.
So it's always tricky with devices that are outside repair. Generally, you probably want to start with Apple, with Premier Partners and service providers, because a lot of us carry parts that go back a long time, and a lot of us have a large inventory of them. We can help you out. So I would definitely start with that. Obviously, next option is eBay. You're probably getting pretty far in the weeds after that. There's not a whole lot of other options. And as far as refurbished ones, I'd be real weary of that just because there's not a lot of great options that you can check them to be able to test them very easily.
How do you end up with a large inventory? Is it people like you buy old computers, or your customers
just give them to me?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we have a lot of computers that there'll be a major component that failed. It's too expensive to repair. They leave the computer with us, but there's a lot of actually good components. So we'll strip those off, keep those, because they might be something we can use for testing purposes later. And
right.
So we end up with, over the years, you start stockpiling stuff.
Yeah. Now, I got you. How do you store them? Is it like one of those like little U-line, like lots of little
multiple U-line boxes everywhere? Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, Garret.
Yeah, the other one that we'll occasionally use is PowerBook Medic. They've been around forever. They have a 180-day warranty on their parts, so it's great because Apple typically gives a 90-day warranty. So we end up having to use like a PowerBook Medic part. We're actually doubling that warranty for them. So that's the other one we use quite often. If I have to go to eBay, I will, but I obviously make sure the listing shows it as a guaranteed part, and then we run it through all Apple extensive testing. Usually takes 3 hours to run it through the OS and the low-level testing to make sure the board's actually good. I don't believe the descriptions.
Exactly. Next question.
David Brady in New York asks, TEKSERVE was the premier Apple sale and repair center in New York City for decades. When the Apple stores started popping up, they shuttered. How confident are you that this won't happen again?
Garret?
I have zero confidence that they won't open up an Apple store across the street from me, but it's been going on for 20 plus years. As soon as I bought this business 25 years ago, an Apple store opened up in town, and it's just about differentiate. Holy, someone else can say that word. Differentiating yourself. Holy cow, thanks. Because we offer a lot more. We get a ton of work from the Apple store because they focus on a very narrow. Our local Apple store doesn't do laptop repairs in-house anymore, so we can get it done in 24, 48 hours. So it's just, we add, as a value-added reseller, we just add a ton more and a much better experience. I know Terry and Jim are about the same. My son's been with me for 10 years. My wife's been with me for 20. A couple other employees have been here for 8, 10 years. So right. We've seen it just about all.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Terry.
Well, just again, echo what he just said, but we, in our case, we're in a small enough town that Apple's not likely to come knocking on our door. So I have to just be concerned or be aware of Best Buy or some of the other larger places. But yeah, just if it happens, it happens. But I think also that Jim and Garret would both agree that we're not sitting here betting our whole business totally on Apple. because they could just drop us like a hat. I mean, and
Right.
so we need to be able to pivot and be ready for that. So we've always been cognizant of that. So
Go ahead, Alex.
Someone who doesn't enjoy crowds, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I find Apple stores chaotic, and it's like a get in, get out, and I don't really enjoy going into them. So any opportunity to go into, like, I'm from Canada, so Simply Computing is a great independent a place to go to for stuff like this. And I just feel like there's a little bit more of a personal one-on-one connection. Like, you get to know the people that work there a little bit more, and it's just a little more relaxed and not chaotic. So I think there's always a place for that.
right, and just to echo that of what you just said, that we know our customers. We have customers. We just went to Richie, one of our guys, just got married here a couple of months ago, and a couple of our customers went to his wedding. So how many Apple Store employees have ever gone to a customer's wedding?
Next question.
Next question is from Douglas Carmichael. How do AASPs / resellers usually recruit and train new employees? Could you see the IT training sector developing a commercial training pipeline, or is that usually handled by the AASPs resellers themselves?
Go ahead, Garret.
We pretty much handle that ourselves. We've tried hiring former Apple trained technicians, but we're just such a unique, working so closely with the customer that we've gone to hiring the personality. As long as they use an Apple product, an iPhone, a Mac, whatever. It's for us. If you're technically minded, it's not that hard. So we hire the personality, and we train the rest in store. They start up front, handling the senior crowd and the one-on-ones, and you learn it very quick. And then obviously it's a very long path to take all the classes to actually be certified.
Go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, same thing. We just use our networking opportunities here locally, the Chamber of Commerce, other customers, let them know that we're hiring and we're looking for someone. We got a college here, so just the traditional methods. And as far as, pipeline, we've given up on trying to get this formal training that's all PC, and you've got attitudes that come out of the PC that hate Apple. It's like, well, fine, whatever, we'll move on.
It's hard, I think with anything, it's always hard to, the how do you build that? And it's harder for, like, when I do production, we put people into as production assistants, and we let them, we kind of slowly work them out. The hard part is that, when you're dealing with hardware, you're like, you can't solder that to that. And now we have to buy a new board. Like, it's got to be hard to put new people into actually touching the hardware, as you go down that path. It doesn't sound like you have a lot of turnover, though. So it's the same folks doing it.
Try not to. Yeah.
Next question.
Samuel Nordvik in Norway asks, what are the options to repair iOS devices other than only screens and batteries?
Good, Jim.
There's actually, it depends on the phone, but there's a ton of different options. You can repair the back panel, you can repair cameras, you can repair the haptic motors. There's just a lot more components than there used to be. If you go back a couple of years ago, it was only screen and batteries, but now the phones are a lot more component based, and a lot of more of those components are easily accessible, and any authorized service provider can replace those on an individual basis without needing to replace the whole entire phone.
Go ahead, Garret.
Yeah, it's it'll just echo what Jim said. There's a ton of components we can replace now, right down to Apple has gone away from replacing whole phones. So we have what's called a mid or a rear system, where if your logic board's gone, we can take your camera and screen, put it on the new rear system or the mid system, and it all gets married back together like it just came out of the Apple factory.
Next question.
John Snyder in Reno, Nevada asks, what is the difference between an authorized repair shop and a corner store that swaps screens and batteries, product training, warranty, etc.?
Go, Jim.
I think Terry kind of covered this at the beginning, but you're looking at the original Apple parts as they're supposed to be. I used to use the example of it's like buying a Ferrari and going to Jiffy Lube to get the service on it. You can do that. It's just probably not the best idea. And so, you're looking at Apple warranty. Obviously, if it's something where you've got Apple Care on the device, it's going to continue that. You're not going to have a problem, but there's a lapse of coverage. You just have a lot, we're not taking a battery that we yanked out of someone else's phone and shoving it in your phone. It's going to be new products from Apple. And so there's just a lot more kind of a better path of making sure everything's up to par.
Good, Garret.
Yes, somewhat of the same thing. I mean, we get a lot of phones in here that came from third-party places. Something broke. The other big thing is not so much on the newer phones, but on some of your older phones where the receiver and some of that stuff was part of the screen. If you watch some of the YouTube videos of the self-repair folks, they're actually transferring those components over. Where with us, if you need a new screen, it comes with the receiver, the Touch ID. It's a full component, and obviously, since it's Apple and married with the hardware, you're not getting those screen variations. When the third-party screen comes in, I can pretty much tell you it's a third-party screen just looking at it.
Next question.
David Brady in New York City asks, I should have fired up the TAM and joined up. What is the best way to preserve the rubberized keyboard?
Well, I'll chime in real quick. I didn't know about the rubberized keyboard, but what he's referring to is the 20th anniversary Mac. And I don't know about the rubberized part of it, but I think if it's already working and it's continuing to work, I'm not really sure what you can do to keep it in good shape, if that's what they're meaning, or if they're wanting to get it repaired or refurbished. You might look at like what he had talked about. Garrett, what was the place, the parts that you were talking about? That place, the third-party parts.
PowerBook Medic and keep
That's
it out
right.
of the humidity.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
It was funny. We were during COVID, we used a lot of ultraviolet, and we had, you knew that it was a real ultraviolet sterilizer when it says you can't be in the room when you turn it on. Like it's like the little ones with a little waving thing. You're like, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work. But then there's ones you can put on that are just like whack the room with an incredible amount of ultraviolet rays, and even a glimpse of it hurts. Like it's a lot of ultraviolet rays. And I was talking to someone about it, and they said, don't do that with rubber because it'll damage, the ultraviolet rays will damage the rubber. And I was like, does that mean that leaving things like at a window next to the sun does damage? And he's like, oh yeah. It was like leaving things in this. He goes, the sun is a really powerful thing that keeps us all alive. But he goes, but rubber just destroys rubber. And so when you have your, and I don't have that problem because I've been in offices that look like caves my entire life. First thing I do is cover all the windows, so that I have control of it. But that is definitely something that makes a difference. Next question.
Next question is from Daniel Patridge in Rochester, Minnesota. In the late 1990s, Apple had the online Learn and Earn program for dealer product sales training. Do they still offer dealers much in the way of product sales training on new products since they created their own stores and fewer dealers are around now?
Go ahead, Garrett.
Yeah, we have a huge sales training side and the certification side for technicians. There are mandatory classes we have to take as far as customer privacy, the health, battery handling. So yeah, there is a huge amount of resources for us to stay up to date. And like I said, they're mandatory.
Go ahead, Terry.
And in addition to that, each of us have access through ASMC. We've gotten trainings from other from customer service type experts. Bob Phibbs, right? That I know Garrett took advantage of him. He's like the retail guy, the retail doctor actually, and he provides we take that knowledge that Apple provides about the products, and then we combine that with his training, and you've actually got a powerhouse of a salesperson there. So but we don't get any learn and earn. There's no, I guess the earn is only if you're on commission, but they don't do that. Apple didn't pay us anything.
Next question.
Douglas Carmichael asks, have you ever had customers come in with vintage Macs? Do you turn them away, or do you charge time and materials on a best effort basis for the job?
Good, Jim.
We definitely get a lot of vintage Macs that come in. We try not to turn them away. There are obviously times where it's just beyond economical repair and it doesn't make sense. But we have some customers, we've got attorneys that they're up there in age and they still like run their classic system. And that's what their software's on. And we're not going to try to convince them any other way. And so we do the best we can to try to piecemeal things together and keep them up and running. It usually is time and materials just because it's not a flat rate. But we definitely try to make sure that we can keep those machines going as long as we can.
Go ahead, Garrett.
Yeah, we don't charge extra. We do the same thing. If you really want to keep your cheese grater rolling, then we'll get it. I know those Pro Tool cards are expensive. So yeah, we do the same thing. It's not a special rate. We just we charge normally, and hopefully they walk away happy. And when they're ready to buy another one, they remember us.
Go ahead, Alex.
And how extensive do you get as far as repairs on vintage Macs? So, for example, like if I brought in a Mac SE, a 30-year-old Mac, and all the capacitors are just leaking or blown in the power supply section of the logic board, do you guys do stuff like that? Will you recap a board?
We will not, just because of the fact that if Apple comes in and sees a soldering gun real close to us, there are definitely going to be problems.
Yeah, I think that's where the PowerBook Medic, maybe, I don't know if they'll do it, and you might find some people that do that. But something that old probably turn them away. But
Next question.
Greg McFarlane in Boston, Massachusetts asks, are there any specific Apple product repairs that you think a tech-savvy could do without significant risk or issues?
Go ahead, Garret.
I think if you're tech savvy, especially with the right to repair, you can pretty much do about everything. Obviously, watch your static. The big issue comes in with your self repair is like Terry said earlier, once you get all the tools and the part, and yes, if you do self repair, Apple will marry those parts back together. But the cost can pretty much be more than bringing it to a repair center. But any Apple savvy person, I think, could handle it. The biggest worry is batteries. You don't want to puncture a battery. You don't want to bend a battery because, there's not great chemicals in those.
Go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, the safety factor is the biggest thing, and damaging your product and costing you more. There's no warranty on the parts that Apple sends you that way when you do a self-repair. So keep that in mind. And also know that if they're the independent repair providers, there is no warranty from Apple or through us when these third party, I'm going to use CPR because they're a big one, but a lot of those guys have gotten their independent repair program authorizations, and they'll, if the cellular doesn't work after they replace the screen, we can't do it. We can't touch it. We literally have to refer back to that independent repair provider. So that's the biggest issue. If we mess it up, we'll either have to pay or if there was something wrong with the process, and so we get Apple, we work with them. You're backed with anything that we do. So,
next question.
Robert Shoji in Los Angeles asks, could your three guests please provide their contact information?
There's a lot of interest here. I think we have that information in the email that goes out, and if not, we'll make sure to add it to that as an addendum. So stay tuned for that. And one more question.
This one's from Roz Humphreys in Comox, British Columbia, Canada. What are the chances your business would expand into Canada? Focus on West first, please.
Go ahead, Jim.
So it's a little difficult because Apple actually breaks every country down to their own contracts. So for a US-based company to expand into Canada, it's not just an expansion. It actually would require a completely separate contract to be there in Canada. And for a lot of us, that's just difficult to do. So there are some other resellers that are already in Canada. My suggestion is maybe reach out to them and see if they can consider expanding. That would be a much easier one.
Just so people know what areas you do serve, Terry, where are you coming in from?
Well, keeping in mind, we're all independent dealers or resellers and service providers and Apple consultants. And so we're spread all over the country and into Canada and into the Yukon, I think, above.
Right.
And so it's just a matter of going to the Apple locator for Canada or the Apple locator for the U.S., and you can put in your zip code, and then it will show you if you want to buy a Mac or go ahead.
But specifically, just so people know where you guys are coming from, Terry.
Oh, we are. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm in Wichita Falls, Texas. So I'm North Texas, about 120 miles northwest of Dallas-Fort Worth.
Got it. And Jim?
Gainesville, Florida.
Oh, nice. And Garret?
Buffalo, New York.
Oh, fantastic. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. It was really, really great to have you here on the show and dive into a lot of these repair questions. I think a lot of it is a little mysterious to folks, and we talk about it, and it was really good to have you come here and clarify a bunch of stuff for us. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having us. This is a good opportunity to kind of educate folks on what other options there are, and it's a once in a lifetime opportunity here.
We're going to try to get you guys to come on to our panel. You saw the first hour of the panel, and having one of you guys on every once in a while just means that we have someone that can answer techie.
I've been working that for the last.
Okay.
You've seen me pop in as you're going through, so I've been working that. I didn't get. I was there and available, but there wasn't a question I could answer. So last week, so I'm ready.
So just we'd love to see you guys on to be available to answer some of these questions, because I think we get more. The funny thing about being on the panel is that we get more questions. When people regularly are showing up and they go, oh, Terry's going to be here, or Garrett's going to be here, or Jim's going to be here, like they start to see you there, and then they go, oh, I can ask these questions because they're there in the panel. But it takes a little time for that to build up. So this is a great introduction to that. Hopefully we'll see you guys again. Thanks to the rest of the panel. Can't do this without you. Answering the questions in the first hour, being part of the second hour. Thanks to the producers out there asking all the questions. This is a real short show without the producers supplying those questions. We've answered over 55,000 questions in the last 4 years. And we really appreciate everybody's contribution to making that actually possible. And thanks to the incredible production team, management team, development team that makes this product possible. This is definitely not not your average Zoom meeting, and that is really driven by an incredible set of teams, a group of teams. There's probably 30, 40 people that either work during the show, before the show, after the show, to make sure that it happens every single day, 7 days a week, 365, sometimes 366 days a year. So we really appreciate everybody's contribution there. Now the Tlaloc traversal, if we had to travel around asking these questions and gone to everybody's house and asked the questions here, we would have traveled 57,000 miles. That's 108,000 kilometers. And that is 533 million bananas for scale. All right, let's go ahead and jump into After Hours. Thanks, guys. That was great.
All right.
Good to have you on.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us. I don't know, Garrett and Jim, are y'all interested in...
We're going to try to drag you on. Just come every once in a while.
I bought this cool new microphone, so now I have to use it.
Oh, now you're committed. Now you have no choice. Jim, we got to get you on the microphone the thing. We'll drag you in there. But I do think that if on Fridays, for instance, if one of you was here every Friday, what would happen is the first 4 to 6 weeks you maybe have a question or two. But what will happen is people will know, oh, there's someone to answer Mac hardware questions every Friday. You start to see what we see is that you start to see it pick up. If someone's there every time. So maybe you guys.
That's been.
Okay, great, fantastic.
Yeah, certainly.
All right, thanks. All right.